Welcome, everybody. As you can see, my name is Ron Gonen, and I co-found and I co-lead an investment firm called Closed Loop Partners that's focused on investing in the circular economy. In the few minutes that I have up here today, I'm going to talk about a few topics. First, I'll give you a quick overview of our firm and what we focus on. Number two is I will give you a 1 minute everything you ever needed to know about the economics in waste management. And then number three, I'll talk about a paradigm shift that we're trying to create in the investment industry. So first, our firm, Closed Loop Partners, we're primarily focused on investing in the circular economy. What we mean by the circular economy is anything that's sold out into the market, rather than it following a linear process where at the end of its use, somebody, generally a municipality, pays for it to go to a landfill, and then to reproduce another one of those, you extract natural resources. What we focus on is investing in technologies and business models that instead can buy that material or product, recycle it into a new product, and get it out to market. We have a few vehicles that we do this with. We have a project finance fund called the Closed Loop Fund that invests in project finance and infrastructure. As an example, we financed an upgrade to the City of Chicago's recycling facility, financed an upgrade to Minneapolis and St. Paul's recycling facility. The most unique thing about that fund is that the investors in that fund are the world's largest consumer goods companies. We have Unilever, P&G, Johnson & Johnson, Coke, Pepsi, so on and so forth. I'll get into that later in my conversation. That's just a hint that, hey, there's a lot of money to be made in the waste management industry, and particularly in recycling. That's why these companies are engaged in our fund. We then have a very early stage venture fund called Closed Loop Ventures, which looks for the most innovative technologies and business models in the circular economy space. And then we have a foundation called Closed Loop Foundation that enables us to do R&D and grant making in the space. This type of investment process enables us to step in wherever we see opportunity along the life cycle of a company. If we need to be very, very early doing R&D and seed, we can do that. If we need to help somebody commercialize, we can do that via our venture fund. If we have to help them scale, we can do that through our project finance fund. That's a little bit about us. A primer in 1 minute on the economics of the waste management industry. Why is recycling important? I'm going to take 2 to 3 answers if I can get the right answer. Why is recycling important? Anybody? Please.
Capture lost value.
I don't know what that means, but explain.
You have potential value that you're not recognizing equity of.
You personally can recognize that value as a household?
No, I need some assistance in doing that.
Okay, but you're touching on it a little bit, but it's hard as a household. Go ahead.
Yeah, there is a finite amount of resources in the earth, so eventually we'll run out of.
Okay, right. So there's an environmental reason. One more.
Reduce the waste stream.
Because
We're running out of space.
Okay, running out of space, resource. All right, I'm going to break it down as simply as possible because I only have a minute to give you this economic overview. Municipalities in the United States today spend $5 billion a year disposing of waste in landfills. Okay, $5 billion a year. That means that if, as an entrepreneur, you can figure out a way to more sustainably process that material for $4.999 billion a year, there's a lot of folks interested in your business. And that's the key thing to understand about recycling. Yes, it is absolutely important to do from an environmental standpoint. It's probably the most impactful thing that you can do on a daily basis is to make sure that you recycle. There's not enough recognition of that in the environmental space. But equally as important, there's a major economic opportunity, meaning every time a citizen throws something that's recyclable in the garbage, they and you will share in the cost of sending it to landfill. I just wanted to point that out to everybody so you're clear on the economic opportunity around waste management and recycling. Number three, from a paradigm shift in terms of what we're trying to develop from an investment perspective, I'll use the Closed Loop Fund, our project finance fund, as a great example. If I were to say to folks, who here knows what a 401k is? Right? Not you've heard of a 401k. How many of you have heard of a 401k? Okay, great. How many of you have heard of a mutual fund? Raise your hand. Okay. How many of you have heard of a index fund? Raise your hand. Okay. How many of you would consider yourselves in the financial services industry, or you have an MBA or a degree in finance? Okay, very few. Okay. 150 years ago, if you walked into the top business school, if you walked into the leading banks and you said, a 401k, they would say, I have no idea what you're talking about. If you said a mutual fund, they'd be like, what's that? If you said any other of the financial instruments that we use every day to them, they would have no idea what you're talking about and would probably tell you that it's impossible to construct something like that. And I want to point that out because that's really, really important as part of this conversation, because oftentimes when you talk about impact investing or impact funds, the general investment community will say, yeah, that's not how things are done, right? But in reality, things change constantly in every industry, and new products are always developed in order to find opportunities. And what you have here today in the impact space is a major opportunity to create a paradigm shift. Very quickly, as an example, around our closed loop fund, our investors, right, all of these corporate LPs, they put money into our fund. We invest at below market rates. We lend money at 0 interest to municipalities and below market rate loans to private companies, 2-3%. Now, why would a Unilever or a Procter & Gamble, a publicly traded company, ever invest in a fund that's going to return 1 or 2%? Here's the paradigm shift. It's cheaper for them to manufacture using recycled materials. And so the paradigm shift in the new model we created out of the closed loop fund was to say, put $5 million into our fund, we'll return $5 million of principal, plus our investments will generate supply chain for you that will save you $10 million a year. So over the life of a 10-year fund, you put $5 million in, and you actually got $5 million in cash back, plus $100 million in either revenue or cost savings. CFO, does this look like a great investment for you? Absolutely. That's what we're hoping to prove out with our project finance fund, which then creates a new model for how you invest, which is not just to, hey, I put $1 in, how much cash am I getting out? But I put $1 in, how much cash am I getting out? Plus, what other value did you create for either me personally or for my organization in terms of infrastructure or services that created additional revenue or savings? So I'll stop there. Great. Thank you, everybody.